Okay, tonight is a return of the professor and the pupil. It's back and better than ever, as Mike Greenberg of Get Up would say. And I am pleased to be with my new pupil, Stephen Reichel. Great stuff. You're back. You made it to the professor and the pupil, didn't you? And I.
Graduating and moving on and moving up.
Yeah, well, now I know you're not giving up your inside the pixie again.
I said moving on and moving up. I didn't say moving on from it.
Oh, no, I'm with you. I'm just busting your chops. Anyways, glad
I'm
to bring
always
back.
literal.
What's that?
I said I'm always literal.
You tell me about it. Yeah, Mike Greenberg, Get Up, better than ever. I don't know. I know this one will be with you and I. There's no question about that. So, anyways, let me give everybody an overview what our objective of the show is going to be. Every now and then, we're going to bring somebody in my system that, to me, is representative of who they are. One of the primary purposes of the show is we are going to talk about my book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Candy, can you put that up for a moment? And then we'll be able to go ahead and draw topics off of it. So I think the one thing that's important, and you're going to be getting your copy, obviously, in the next few days, is that we want people to learn interview techniques and what it's like, because this book is really intended for students or anybody that wants to buy it, but individuals that are starting off in this industry so they understand the past versus the present, old school media versus new school media. And the one thing I've figured about you, which is really important, is you're starting to figure out the writing part. You sent me 3 stories yesterday, which I think was admirable. And I met a young little girl last week over a NCAA women's Final Four, and she ended up, when she heard me ask questions, it was just unbelievable. Said she approaches Candy and said, "Man, he can give some pretty hard-nosed questions." And Candy says, "Is that your husband?" "Yeah, it is." So she introduced me, and then I told her about my book. She wanted to buy it, and she showed me in her hand. This young lady, she will probably be invited once she gets through the book. But that's what we're trying to do. Not only are we trying to educate people about the book, but we're also trying to make sure that we talk about tomorrow. Yeah, I don't care how old you are. If you're getting into the business, if you're one of those individuals that's willing to learn, it's the type of book, and you've already written 3 stories in one day. It just blows me away what you're going to be able to do as time goes on, and we bring this show to the level that I know that we're capable of doing. So Candy will give you all the information about it later. But Steve, I'm glad I don't add anybody to do this show. I'm very selective who I want to bring on. But as I saw your body of work with me on Inside the Pigskin, it became very apparent over the last few weeks or so that if there's anybody that was going to enable me to bring this show back, you are an easy number one choice, and I am glad that you are on here for sure. So the way I look at it is something that I'm really glad to be back. I've been in this business for 45 years. If I can educate anybody, that's great. And I think that's important to be able to do that. I've actually given other broadcasters an opportunity to look at it. And some of them, another recent a guy that I had who did a hockey show promised me he'd read the book, but never really did. So, and I'm thinking if there's ever a guy that could have learned anything from it with a checkered past, it would have been him, but he didn't finish it all the way, didn't keep his word. I won't dwell on the negative. I'm only focusing on the positive right now. But anybody can read it. I don't pretend to know it all, but I'm going to tell you one thing. I have experienced an awful lot for sure. And that's what we're trying to go out there and be able to do this. Another one of my prized pupils, actually, who I'll probably invite on here, might be a guy by the name of Ralph Williams. So look him in the chat. Here's a guy who's a disabled guy who's actually, we do sports rap together. And this guy here, I'm the executive producer of the show, Steven. I really am. And here's a guy who's working hard. There are times I lean on him extremely hard, but Ralph is a sweetheart of a guy, and I think that he's a candidate at some point to come on down the road. He's working on building his social media following up on Twitter. Has a ways to go, but I'm handling his Saturday show, and I really enjoyed the challenge of working with a very coachable person. The one thing I'm always looking for is coachable people that are able to make it on the show, that are people that keep their word and do what they have to do. With that said, we're going to talk about your first topic, and that's your article, Stephen. NFL players safety hypocrisy. I want you to go ahead and explain what the nature of this article is. Then we're going to go to Coach Mario Cristobal with some observations on the Guardian Caps.
Well, basically, this the owners meeting, the coaches get together when they try to ratify new rules and things of that nature. Obviously, there was a bunch of stuff that happened, that over the past month as far as the owners meetings went and stuff like that. So, couple of changes came in. Obviously, some of them, were along the lines that are some helpful things, but then, you get the change to the kickoff rule again, which is more penalizing teams for kicking it at the back of the end zone. And when we started looking at dangerous plays that are you're getting guys injured on a lot of times, is why they initially changed how the kickoff setup was. And then you go and do this where we have the stats to see, like, hey, like, guys are getting banged up on this play, especially the head injury variety, those things. Like, as you're already saying, like, the NFL's brought in the Guardian Caps. We've done the concussion protocol stuff that they do is it is catching some stuff and things of that nature. But then when you have teams like the Buffalo Bills and the Green Bay Packers going in there and sitting there trying to have the Eagles short yardage play, the tush push play banned on the strength of player safety and pace of play or pace of the game, is just it's hypocrisy at its highest form, in my opinion. When even at the owners meeting, Jeffrey Lurie said when they started to kind of have the early stages of developing this play, it was with player safety in mind. If you think about it, when you go into those short yardage situations, the way they run this play, there's no chance to kind of really, have those high impact hits and things of that nature. You don't have guys, running, at full speed at each other. That's going from, a full rest to just, it's all about, footwork, strength and technique at that point in time, and has absolutely the chances of you getting a guy, getting a concussion on that type of play is close to zero. There's no statistics. There's no one that has been injured in that play over the last few years. And as far as pace of play goes, it has nothing to do with the offense. We've seen it firsthand at the divisional playoff game this past year when the Eagles played the Washington Commanders, and Freddie Duval's jumping over the top of the the line of scrimmage, and to the point where the referee's like, hey, you guys do this again, we're just gonna give them the touchdown. At this point in time, was the oddest thing I've ever seen in an NFL game, in a playoff game, things of that nature. But for argument's sake, let's just say they get to the point where they do ban it in a way. So now you're going to take a play that is you're limiting the amount of guys hitting each other at full speed, things of that nature, to now you're going to bring that in. So now they're going to go back to handing the ball off to a Saquon Barkley or things of that nature. The only thing I'll give them that they can do to change it is just the rule about not progressing a ball carrier forward. Which, if they do that, that's fine. I still think they could run the play, but it would be in a completely different context, things of that nature. If that's how they wanted to kind of go after the play, I would have no problem with that. I would understand that. But when you're sitting there citing that it's player safety and pace of play, it's sour grapes, in my opinion. Get better, get bigger guys, it's basically. You look at it, but the Buffalo Bills are the one running the play more than any team in the NFL. It's not the Eagles.
Right.
they're just not doing it as well. They don't have the offensive line. They don't have. I mean, you would think that Josh Allen's one of the best players in the league, that he'd be able to get to play. He's a bigger guy. He weighs more than Jalen Hurts. Things of that nature. It's just not always the case. I think it's not a secret the Eagles have had the best offensive line in football over the last 10 years, regardless who's been playing right guard. We all know who played center for the better part of 10 years here in Philadelphia. Jason Kelsey. You have Lane Johnson on the other side of the field. You have Jordan Mailata, who's 6'8", like 300 some odd pounds. He's a former rugby player, so yeah, he knows how to move people around, and he's a pretty agile guy. Then you got Lane and Dickerson, right? Like, you have guys on that line that absolutely, they can move their weight around. They're athletic, and they use their feet just as bad as well as most of the running backs do in the NFL. So, in my opinion, like, when it comes to that, it's you have to. If they, like I said, if they would have went about it sitting there saying that we don't want anyone to be able to push him anymore, that's something we can have a discussion about. But when you cited it that it's player safety and pace of play, it's hypocrisy. And then, like I said, the NFL allowing this when you're sitting there changing the kickoff rule, when you're sitting there adding more games to the schedule. So how are we talking about that player safety is our top priority? It's not. Obviously, we've seen a lot change over the last 10 years as far as the rules go, and how headings change, how we saw the hip drop tackle basically be removed over the last few. Now that's something that's player safety, but I haven't seen it called on a lot of plays that were hip drop tackles over the past 2 years. You haven't seen it called at the variety that it should, to kind of curtail players from tackling that way. I mean, it's going to be hard because that's how these guys were taught to tackle, from pee-wee to now. So that has some adjustment to do. But I think when, again, the player safety hypocrisy needs to end. Just say you can't run the play. Tell them they can't push them anymore. That's fine. But yeah, Ralph, the kickoff rule is a joke. I mean, you have some of the older guys that are upset with the league, like guys like I was when I interviewed Vince Papale, I asked him about it. He's like, I absolutely hate it. That steals a job from me. That steals a job from a lot of guys because of how they changed the rule. But I don't think it necessarily steals all of it. But again, what they did this past year just showed that it's not about player safety. If you wanting more kickoffs, I get that, but at this point in time, if player safety is really concerned, just put it on the 30-yard line after a team kicks an extra point, kicks a field goal, scores a touchdown, whatever. So there is no cause for it. Then yes, we can sit there and say, like, you are taking money out of people's hands, but you got to think of how much money the league coughed out when the whole concussion gate happened. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I'm with you.
Something that they completely buried and act like it was the it was just the unspoken thing until it actually finally hit the NFL alumni to the point where they couldn't deny it anymore, is when it finally started to be taken seriously. Even more so where when they had those owner meetings, those coach meetings over the last month, they banned, what was it? I think yesterday or today they announced like 7 different helmets that they banned.
Right.
Because they have numbers stating like listen, there's a higher concussion rate with this helmet, with that. See, that's something that we have to take it seriously, because not all these guys are taken care of when their time as a player is over. We've seen it time and time again. Like even Warren Sapp did an interview. Basically, once he got his golden jacket, his health insurance was gone. So I mean, like, not everyone's going to be in the position to be able to take care of, and we have to do what's best for the players, even if they at the moment they don't think it's a fair rule change or whatever. But if we're going to take player safety seriously, stop using it for this for a reason to take this play away. Because I mean, if we're doing that, then all right, well, you can't throw slants to Travis Kelce no more. Lamar Jackson can't quarterback sneak the ball anymore. I mean, that's how ridiculous it is going after this play in this way, at least in my opinion.
Well, good. I'm glad because I'll tell you this right now. The only thing I'll say about the tush push rule is just because the Philadelphia Eagles are good at it, nobody else is. That's one way to get rid of it. And number two, guess what? We have a soundbite coming from Mario Cristobal. Take it away. And Ralph, before we go to the soundbite, NFL is trying to cover up for mistakes. Bingo. Bullseye, whatever you want to call it. There you go, Steve. Ralph, you should be watching this show every Monday night because I guarantee if anybody will get something out of it, it will be you. I promise you that. All right, Candy, go to the sound bites. Mario. So, Mario, I saw the players wearing Guardian caps, and knowing I've had my fair share of head injuries, I can appreciate it. Do you think that as the year goes on, that we could see a lot of these players wearing Guardian caps during the regular season, knowing it's in the best interest of the player and it's probably due to being comfortable with them?
I think that's something, it's a question more for the medical side of college football in general. I think college football continues to move towards a place where players are protected more and that they can still play fast and physical. So, it's a question where I'm not qualified to answer what is best in a game, but I know whatever is best and keeps our players most safe.
Okay, now we also have another one that she's going to go to as well. But what he's pretty much saying is in that particular situation, and he's really right, college football makes the call, and he's right. It does. It's out of his control. Now, when she locates the other soundbite, which is about one or two questions into it that I think we'll be able to understand. In this particular soundbite, what I have on there, Steve, is what his opinion is. Again, he's not going to give you the type of answer that a lot of people are thinking he's going to be a, quote, king, because he's not. But one thing about Mario Cristobal is he's very straightforward, is what he is, and I really love dealing with his direct nature of handling questions, which is why I think we both get along well. Were you able to find it, Candy? We'll see if she's able to.
Hold on, I'm getting it. Give me just a second, okay?
She's working on it, but meanwhile, it's good. I always enjoy going down there to see the Miami Hurricanes during their spring game, and of course, they held it at Cobb Stadium, which is on the campus of the University of Miami. Pretty decent turnout for being on campus. There are times when they've actually held the event in Broward County. I understand what they're trying to do in an attempt to keep it on campus, because when you think about it, they play their games at Hard Rock Stadium. So it's good that the on-campus situation gets addressed, at least in that particular point. But Cristobal's good to work with. I work with a lot of great coaches over the years. Howard Schnellenberger is the one who's always been my favorite. So, you got to get to know a guy. And as time goes on and you start going to events, whatever they may be, you're going to find that some of these coaches, if you ask questions in the right way, and you're informative about what you do, because our goal on the show is to be informative on here, then they'll answer your questions if they're truly legitimate people. And I think I've dealt with, I would say 90%, 95% of the people I've interacted with have been really good. Every now and then you run across a few, but those are far and few between. But give me your take really quickly, though, on that Cristobal quote before Candy is able to call the other half.
Well, I mean, we're like we said, Guardian caps are something we've been just starting to see in the NFL. I think this past season we actually seen a handful of players like wear them in game, not just preseason, not just during practices and whatever. So the fact that we're starting to see it trickle down to the NCAA level is good. And I mean, I agree with him. Like it shouldn't be. At the moment, not something the NCAA should do. It should be something that the players themselves take upon themselves to wear to kind of help themselves and protect themselves.
Okay, Candy,
you ready?
You have it?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going.
Take a watch and a listen.
The physical part begins on Monday, so we're excited for that.
One other question I have about the Guardian caps. I know that it's up to medical people to make it. What have you learned about them so far, and what are your impressions of those?
Again, I think, it looks like there might be positive things, but the data, it's hard to tell. It's hard to say what is what without taking a cohort of with them, without them. So I'd love to answer your question, but I just don't have the information as to, you know what I mean?
The answers are fair. That's all I can ask.
There you have it. The answers are fair. That's all I can ask.
I mean, he's got a point there. Like we're still so young into at least this product as far as like to protect players from potential head injuries. We don't have enough stats to say that if it's 100%, you know, that this is going to help these guys or not. As as I remember when you know, they just started putting them on the Eagles players, and you know, some of them were like, you know, just like, well, I feel like I got a diaper on my head
Right.
to that effect. So like, I don't think you're going to see like from the gate, like initially 100 people like are just, you know, 100% of the people that are going to be on board with like, hey, this is gonna help protect us and things of that nature. We have to start seeing the stats from it that it is protecting them. I don't know how you're going to like it's the same thing like when you're talking about, you know, a boxer or some type of combat sports fighter. Like it's just something that you sign up for. Like there's a potential that, you know, I could have some you know, some head injury, some, you know, potential, you know, having CTE, like as we just seen a lot with a lot of guys over the years. It's not something you want to see. You want to try to protect these guys as much as you can, but at the same time, it's kind of like the unspoken rule, you know, what you signed up for. But hopefully, you know, over the next few years, we do get some actually stats back to say that it does help or doesn't, so we know which way the league should move forward and which way the players and coaches should move forward as well.
Great point. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a quick station break. Then we have one more topic to get to. Great segue because we're going to talk about boxing. Candy, take it away for a station break. But one thing I do want to point out, though, is you do make a good point about combat sports and Olympic boxing because they ended up wearing headgear on there. So with that, and we all know about the history of CTE and Parkinson's disease. All right, Candy, station break.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It talks about his 40-plus years in the industry and how it has changed. Old school media versus new school media. It has a couple of pictures of a young Scott with a young Muhammad Ali, who's obviously a boxer, so you're talking about head trauma and stuff like that. A boxer is a good example. But there's others, so you got to get your copy of the book. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a link to our merchandise store, as well as a plethora of great content, including the writings of both these fine gentlemen. Go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Monday nights baseball and Professor and the Pupil. Tuesday nights is football. Wednesday night and Thursday nights, you never know what you're going to get, except we do a hockey show on Thursday nights as well. So go check all of it out. If you want to advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest on the show or have show ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to you, Scott.
All right, programming note. Just so you know, coming up tonight at 8:30 p.m. on the WSFT Broadcasting Network, aka our YouTube channel, we're going to have 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. So going forward on Monday night, you got Steven and I doing the Professor and the People. We have 108 Stitches Baseball Talk following, so please incorporate that in your schedule. Next topic is a really intriguing one, Steven, and that's this. Salaries for Dana White's new boxing league were revealed. I'm going to go over them all and tell me what you think. Got $20,000 for a 10-round bout by an unranked fighter. Not bad, right? 10, 20 grand. Not a bad night's work. You can get it. $50,000 when ranked by the company at number 5 through number 10. Okay, let's keep raising the pay scale. Oh, it gets even better. Now we can double it and then some, $125,000 when ranked by the company at number 3 and number 4. $375,000 when challenging for company championship. And finally, $750,000 when defending the company championship. Let's face it, anything that can go ahead and bring back boxing, considering the current state it's in now, I'm all for it. What's your take?
Listen, it's combat sports is without a doubt the dirtiest backdoor stuff that you've ever seen. I don't know if anyone's seen what's going on with GFL. It looks like it was a giant scam. They were trying to bring in all these fighters from all over the place. It's an absolute mess. And obviously Dana White has made his name on building not just MMA but the premier promotion brand in the UFC. The rumor is that him and his partners with TKO are going to start a boxing league. They have some investors and things of that nature. You're starting from scratch, man. So when you're talking about with the company and things of that nature, well, it looks good when you're just looking at it, but listen, a lot of these guys spend almost 10 grand just in training.
Right.
To fly in training partners, to pay their coaches, to fly out to said event and things of that nature. So if you're just giving these guys 10 and 10 to go there, it's not worth it. It's for some of these boxers. It's scaled in a certain way as you go up, as you continue to be with it. But tell me some of these boxers that are already making 50 to 100K a night just stepping in there without sponsors and things of that nature, because I guarantee you they're still going to use the same uniform scale that they've been using on their fighters in the UFC, which isn't going to work for a lot of these guys. You're starting a promotion from scratch. You're not from what I've seen so far. I'm not hearing that they're buying out this promoter X company, C company, whatever, to kind of fill their roster out. So I think it's gonna be a process. I don't think it's something that we're gonna see happen overnight, but that they're gonna have to do something else pay wise to entice some of these big name fighters to come and go and fight for them. I mean, I get it. When you're fighting for a title and things of that nature, well, not every person who gets into combat sports, it's about being a world champion. Some of them, they're doing it because it's what it's what put food on the table. It's what put clothes on their kids' back and things of that nature. Not everyone's going to be trying. They're in there trying to be be popular Joe or Jane. And which that's going to determine a lot of how these fighters are taken care of. So one of those things is it's is it better than what some of these other promoters are doing? It might be, but they might also take care of some of the undercard fighters a lot better than what TKO or Dana White can at this moment.
Right.
So I mean, I think anyone who getting into promoting any aspect of combat sport as long as they have the fighters in mind when they're doing this, I have no problem with it. Do I think Dana White's all good? No. Do I think he's all evil? No, I don't. But he's somewhere in between. Obviously, he thinks he can make a difference and make money from it. People tend to forget that he started off his career as being like a boxing promoter manager before he became the guy over there in MMA with the UFC and things of that nature. So I don't think it's a completely fair scale, but I don't think it's completely on the bad end of things. I honestly, like I said, when you're looking at the bottom of it, and that's where you start. You look at the bottom because that's where most of these guys are going to be starting at when they get there. You have fighters that are not trying to fight on Dana White's Contender Series because it locks them into a contract number that puts them below it. I just interviewed, now a BKFC champion, Jessica Borga, about a month ago before her title fight. She turned down Dana White's Contender Series because of what the pay was.
Right.
And she gambled on herself and went to Bellator and got signed to BKFC, and she's a world champion 4 years later. getting paid what she feels like she deserves to be getting paid. So not every, like I said, not every fighter is going to want to go that route just because it's this named promotion. The money has to make sense, and their sacrifice also have to make sense too. So I will always be pro athlete, especially when I feel like the athletes deserve it. You know, when we're looking at the four major sports, for the most part, athletes are taken care of first before the owner, before the team, before that all that gets taken care of. It's a different animal when we're talking about combat sports. There's two things. There's the promoter and the fighter. There's no somebody to intermediate what does that outside of what the fighter does when they bring their manager in to negotiate the contract. So
Well, let me tell you this. I'm not saying I'm in favor of this. All I'm saying is, number one, Vince McMahon has made a lot of money in it. We all know that Don King is in a league of his own when it comes, and Bob Arum. So I get that. I'm just saying if your boxing in the sport is probably in trouble and nobody knows about it, it's just another way to get boxing out there. I agree with you. I'm all in favor of athlete as well. Nobody wants to have a cap on their earnings right now. The problem is right now you don't hear anything about boxing, and fighters only fight so many years. We're not talking about the boxing in the past. We had Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, and the rest. I'm with you all the way. There's no question about it. All I'm saying is Dana's trying to do something. Whether it works is another story. Yeah. I think you're 1,000% right on the topic, but in retrospect, what do you hear about boxing?
The only person you really hear about it is like you don't like Golden Boy promotion used to be. 10 years ago, that was
Oscar De La Hoya, right?
Yeah, that was what was it? The Bernard Hopkins that had it basically right. like markered in on his back. Like that was how he paid how he was paid to promote that one. The biggest boxing promoter right now is the guy that technically isn't really a promoter, but he's still a fighter. Is Jake Paul and their MVP Promotions. They just announced that Amanda Serrano is going to be the highest paid female athlete of all time after their next fight on Netflix with her and Katie Taylor for their trilogy match. So, I mean, it really depends. Like, I think when we're talking about combat sports, there's just it's so hard to kind of put everyone all into the same place and saying these are the best fighters in the world. Let's see who's the best of the best. That's always been the problem when it came to boxing. And now that you have bare knuckles kind of jumping into it, you still have MMA out there. Boxing has a limited rule set. And then when you get into the politics of how the championship belts are handled and promoted is the other problem. That's where I think that Dana and TKO's heart's in the right place to trying to get all the best in the world and not have all these, they're not fighting who we want them to fight. So we're going to strip them of the belt and we're going to have two new contenders fight, which aren't the number one and number two guys in that weight class. However that works out, that's kind of been why boxing has become like somewhat of a laughing stock over the past 10 years or so, because you don't have the best fighters in the world. That's what I think. Outside of the money thing, where TKO and Dana will succeed is putting that aspect of it together. I think the money side of it will work itself out as they continue to get into consistently putting on events, getting some of the best fighters in the world, etc. But what I think was the more important thing is what made the UFC as big as it was is finding something to build your own stars, not to have to go and go and try to pull in a Tyson Fury or I'm gonna name drop a Philly boy here like Jerron Boots Ennis. He just had a big fight this past weekend. It was kind of his coming out party, and you're going to have to homegrown guys, and not only homegrown them, but they have to pan out for you within those first 5 to 10 years, or else it's just going to be a money pit, and they are going to fail. It's combat sports is a star driven sport. It's not a brand. The brand will. There's not a brand with it. It's all about the athlete. So unless they can find a way to develop, not just in one weight class, you're going to have to develop, almost 50 guys or women throughout, heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight, all the way through. Like, it's going to take them some time before they can get to where they need to be. But like I said, I think the biggest thing what they're trying to do is not just a money thing. It's getting rid of the politics side of what has given boxing its own death, so to speak.
Okay, let me go over a couple things too that I want to talk about in terms of boxing. I know there's a little bit of a difference in age with us and the fact that I've covered around a lot of boxers, but when you think about it, Joe Louis, I never met because obviously I never met him. I was too young and so forth. Jake Paul is an interesting one you bring up. Sugar Ray Leonard, I did meet, and we talked about Mike Tyson, who was a big draw. So I can go on and on in terms of the ones I've met. I can tell you one thing that's consistent with all of them. They always put a face by my jaw, and here I am still talking, by the way. So I agree with you. A lot of the things you're talking about with a lot of these combat fighters and being good draw. And of course, we're talking about pay-per-view, which drives it all to begin with. So one other interesting development, Candy, I believe, just brought up on our screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Paige Beckers goes number 1 to the Dallas Wings, fresh off the UConn title.
She's going to be the next star, man.
What's that?
She's going to be the next star.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe not in that league right away because she got another offer from another league.
Yeah,
I think it's rivalry, right? And it'll be interesting to see whether but the Wings are going to hold her rights, and she's a number 1 pick in the WNBA draft, especially a young athlete. She really is. So I'm with you. But this goes to show you what it backs up your point, though, and that's this: athlete first. And this young lady knew there could be some labor unrest in the WNBA, took the guaranteed money. Oh, I think she ultimately gets to the WNBA and plays the legs of Caitlin Clark.
I don't think it's going to be this year, though.
No, I don't think it will be.
I think she's going to wait till things settle down a little bit and figure out what's what and where's where. Angel Reese has kind of started a lot of this nonsense with if we're not being paid this, we should hold out, we should walk out, etc. They don't have the star power yet. They never did have less than a handful of top level stars. So when you get a player of a Caitlin Clark and you have your rivalry there with Angel Reese, like if anything, Angel should just be concentrating on getting her team right to be able to compete with what Caitlin Clark's doing. She's being upset because only when Caitlin Clark's in town are they going to be playing at the Bulls Arena when they're in Chicago. Like it's you're not the draw. Like it's like no, like when the whole Magic and Bird rivalry started, they were both draws at that time. So it didn't matter who was who and what was what, where we can clearly see there's not just a skill difference between Caitlin and Angel. There's a star difference between them too. And that like, listen, you got one now. You got Caitlin Clark. They need this girl to be in the WNBA and start kind of building some more of these top level stars. I don't care, they're white, they're black, they're Asian, they're Puerto. If I'm a WNBA fan, I'm trying to get all the best talent in women's basketball under that banner and doing what they can to grow. So they're not just doing a revenue share with the WNBA to the NBA. That they're pulling their own revenue. That they don't need Big Brother to help them, so to speak. That's where the goal for the WNBA should be over the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I had an interview with Jackie Eisenhower, who actually, when I told her about the Caitlin Clark, rather not only Caitlin Clark, but the Paige Beckers, and she's as happy as you can be because at that time you didn't have a rival league and your players were forced overseas. That'll be for another night. I just wanted to make mention of it as well. But that's a good point that you brought in Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. This is one of those things where now the WNBA has to realize you have a legitimate competitor that will take all this talent. You need to get your labor ducks in order, and there's another choice for him. But you've got UConn basketball involved here, and you have arguably a very gifted young lady coached by Gino Auriemma. And I can tell you one thing about Gino Auriemma and Paige Beckers, that she loved the guy very much, and he coached her hard. And I had a professor like that to me in college that was the same way. I hated the guy's guts. It was hard to get through his class, but in the end, I loved the guy. So it's called tough love, is really what it is. So yeah, it's one of those kinds of things. So what are your thoughts about our first show, Steve? You having some fun?
It's always fun, man. To talk a little sports, goof around. We get some people talking in the chat and share some knowledge with one another.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. But this one thing about the show, though, Steve, it's going to allow you to become more versatile in what you do. We're going to go over all the different things. Think about it, we really started off with what? NFL player safety. We talk about Dana White, and then we landed on the WNBA. And what do you happen? You have yourself a 40-minute show right like that. It's unbelievable stuff. So I just want to let everybody know that, Steve, why don't you promote your combat sports show when you have an opportunity to? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I just interviewed another bare knuckle fighter, Crystal Van Wyck. She's just moved from South Africa a few years ago to North Carolina, then from North Carolina down there to the fight to the BKFC home down there in Florida. So it's always fun, kind of picking the brain of some of these athletes. Working on a few good ones in the coming weeks. I got a Ultimate Fighter veteran, UFC veteran coming on, and I got another former Bellator fighter who's also gotten his hand into a little bit of media, did some color commentary for Invicta. So we're gonna have some fun guests over the next few weeks. Always gonna be talking combat sports, MMA, boxing, bare knuckle, the whole nine. Let's not forget combat jiu-jitsu, things of that nature. We like to kind of touch all bases on it, and no topics off base. Me and Crystal talked a little mental health awareness stuff for a little bit too. So not just your general sports show, something where everybody can kind of pull something out from it.
What I want you to do is let everybody know how they can watch that show, Steven. Come on. Seriously? Really? Seriously? Or what am I at? Really? Seriously? What's the difference?
Well, we're on the Just Blaze clothing network, aka JB Sports. So, you can find YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Other than that, you can always find it through my channels as well. That you got my X handle down there, Steve Sports Talk 1. You can look up Stephen Reichel either on Facebook or Instagram. The same thing with my YouTube channel as well. Just type in Steve Sport Talk 1. You can find me there. You can find the shows there. You can find clips, things of that nature, to kind of get you a little taste of what we do on the channel. And we're gonna have some more fun over the next few weeks, my friend.
Yeah, and I got news for you. You're gonna find Steven here twice a week. You get him on Monday night on Professor of People, and him and I and Ben Troop, boy, we have a lot of fun talking about football on Inside the Pigskin as well.
Yeah, Ben's got a signing come up. I got to give you guys the information. He's doing a signing over the next month too.
Yeah, we'll be able to do that. Your book will be in the mail tomorrow, but we're gonna want people to hang around there. You can give them the signing as well. So, but Steven's a big role. He's a big help on social media, but more importantly, I love his personality. Not only so much as an individual, but his but his on-air demeanor is good, and now he's become a writer, and that's what this show is all about. I've always been a firm believer, if you're a good writer, you become a really good commentator and on air, and that's what we're trying to develop here. Not only young talent, but we're also talking about a lot of the content you're going to get on this show is going to come from the articles of Stephen Reichel. So please keep us on your schedule every Monday night. With that said, Candy, with a station break, please.
You're listening to the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company. We published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. Talks about his 40-plus years in the industry and how the industry has changed. Gives you some good insights to what you need to do these days to get in and to stay in the business. Again, it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a link to our merchandise store as well as a plethora of great content, including other writings by the two fine gentlemen on this broadcast tonight. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to be a guest on the show or have show ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. Monday nights, we talk baseball, and we have this show, Professor and the Pupil. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday nights, you never know what we're going to be talking about on Sports Exchange. Thursday nights on Sports Exchange is our hockey episode. And then on Fire Up, you never know what we're going to be talking about as well. Okay, Scott, back to you.
Well, Stephen, great first act. Guess what? You and I are gonna do this tomorrow, about 24 hours from now. But great job tonight. I know you're a natural coming on here, and before long, my goal is to make sure you're well-rounded in many facets, and you're off to an incredible start, Stephen. You really, really are, and I enjoy it. Now we have an opportunity to do our own thing together. Not the worst thing in the world, right?
No, sir, not at all.
All right. Well, I'm the professor. He's the pupil. And guess what? We're going to do this again next Monday. Broadcast time at approximately 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time. So meanwhile, thank you for joining us. Once again, following the conclusion of the show, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network, a.k.a. YouTube. Good night, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. Great first act, Stephen. We have a lot more good shows in our pipeline. Good night, everybody.